Well, I'm Perry Stone, and I want to welcome you to something very special that we're going to be sharing with you that I'm interested in personally. I have with me David Parker, who is the CEO of Covenant Transport. I'm familiar with Covenant Transport because my dear board of directors and board member Rick Tao was a senior vice president at Covenant Transport for about 10 years, a wonderful man of faith, and David is as well. Now, he's going to explain to you the trucking crisis, the present crisis, and where this will go in the future, and maybe the changes that can be made to help the United States in this particular situation. So David, first of all, it's good to have you, but for those who may not be familiar with Covenant Transport, tell us a little bit about the headquarters, how many trucks are on the road, and some information that may help them.
Thanks. It's great to be here, Perry. Yeah, there is, from a Covenant standpoint, Jacqueline and I, my wife and I started the company in 1986 with 25 trucks. And we started off running a bunch of team drivers, 2 people to a truck. Think about this driver situation that we're going to be talking about. We had to have 2 of them. And so we started in 1986 with 25 trucks. And today, 35 years later, we're operating about 2,500 trucks. But then we're also in logistics. There's a lot more to the company than just trucks. We have over 3 million square feet of warehouse space throughout the United States, and where we're managing warehouses for our customers. We have, we have a brokerage company where, we have no assets. Those 2,500 trucks do not service the brokerage side of our business, and that in itself is a close to a $280 million company by itself that's just doing brokerage. And then we have warehousing, logistics, where we are running small traffic departments for small shippers, not the large ones, but smaller ones that, they're operating a tow motor one day, and the next day they're trying to find a truck, and we come in and we become their traffic department for them. And so we do that, and then we own 49% of a leasing company that has over 2,000 trucks and 7,000 trailers, and we own 49% of that company. So, altogether, we're close to about, I don't know that we'll break $1 billion this year in revenue, but, we're going to be knocking on the door of $1 billion this year. And so it's been phenomenal growth. We went public in 1994, and, that's been an experience. And, this company has just been blessed of God. And when I say blessed of God, I'm talking about the 2 times in 35 years I've been broke. I've been broke a couple of times as well. And I just didn't shut the doors. Right. And we just kept praying and seeking and asking, and God delivered us on 2 different occasions in 35 years. And so we have been blessed both financially as well as when we needed God to move.
It's amazing. Well, let me ask you a question here. There seems to be, for example, in California, where they're having difficulty getting the freight ships unloaded. Everyone's heard about that. And I know you have worked, of course, in California with your company, and probably still do. But I want you to share with me, there is a real crisis in the making. And if trucks are off the road, it would be 10 times worse than the Great Depression in the United States if trucks are not delivering. And so there's a driver situation, trucking situation, fuel situation. So you take it and give me a little bit of what you shared with me on the telephone that I think people are going to be intrigued with about this real trucking issue. It's very real.
It is absolutely very real. We're probably also, FYI, I don't know if we're number 1, but we're in the top 5 carriers that run the state of California on a transcontinental, not local, but running cross country to California. We are a large presence in the state of California. I don't know if that's good or bad, depends on what day it is out there. But anyway, it has absolutely been an issue that is just strangling, the supply chain, because the supply chain is, it comes from different avenues that's causing all of the issues. First of all, it starts with when we shut the economy down, January of 2020, March 16th of 2020, we shut the economy down. And nothing. It put a halt to manufacturing in China. It goes back also to that same thing is we're finding out how much product is made in China. We're finding, the manufacturing base is pathetic what we've allowed in the United States to happen in China, all in the name of, quote, cheap labor. And so everything has been manufactured in China, from drugs, I'm talking about drugs that are needed, the drugs that are needed for us, to all manufacturing is based there. And so the manufacturing sector stopped. It closed down because of COVID. And then 3 or 4 months later, about June of 2020, we started opening back up. And President Trump was exactly correct at that time. And that was, this is going to be a V-shaped economy. And that means the economy is doing well. It goes to the bottom when we shut it down. And when we open it back up, it goes straight back up, and it looks like a V. Right. And that's what happened starting in June, July of 2020. And it has not stopped ever since then. And the reason why you're seeing this abnormal high inflation is because of what the government has done on spending and throwing trillions of dollars into the economy that's causing the inflation. And some will argue, which I'd be one of them, that stagflation is absolutely right here upon us as we speak. And that's when inflation is going much higher than what wages are going up and what we're able to pay our employees. So that has caused the bottleneck that has happened in China. So everything's coming back. Ships are just coming into the ports of LA, Long Beach. The largest ports in the United States are in Los Angeles. And so you have all these ships coming in, and that's what you read about is we got 78, we got 75, we got 80 sitting out in the ocean, anchored, waiting to get into the ports. So then you got to ask the question that says, why is that? Why are we having such a major problem? And it's really twofold. One would be to give you an idea, a boat will have about 11,000 containers. Wow. 40 foot containers on a ship, over 11,000. What some companies have done, because they cannot get capacity on the large ships, they're averaging, I think, 19 days sitting anchored in the port before they're ever brought in to unload. Okay. And so the boats cannot get back to China because they're stuck in Los Angeles, so they can't get back. And so what some customers have done is that they've gone out and rented and negotiated with smaller vessels. So now we've got some vessels that are coming in here that only hold 1,700 containers, 11,000 versus 1,700. Wow. And just because the big ships can't get back to China. And so that said, you can see what problems that has caused is that now we got a makeup of a bunch of small ships sitting in the port. Now, what's caused all that? And it is the labor issue that is very similar to what you and I look at when we go down the road and we see the restaurants and they all got signs up looking for hiring.
Everybody has it.
Everybody. It doesn't matter. We do not have. So the question that starts there is that why pre-March 16th of 2020, we all had enough employees, working, and what happened? And it's because of the amount of money that's been thrown at a lot of people that have taken it and decided to just take it and stay on the sidelines for a while. A second thing is that we've got a lot of people that retired. People that are around 60 years old decided, I'm going to retire early instead of waiting 3 or 4 years. Why? Because the stock market for the last year and a half has exploded. Right. Their 401k looks a lot better. And so they retired. So that said is that there's somewhere on the participation rate is something that I look at all the time. Right. And to get,
go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, the participation rate of all workers in the United States, that number used to be always at about 66, 67% of people that were eligible to work were working. And that number today is running at 61%.
Oh, wow.
So it's created about 4 to 5 million people that are not working today that were working in March of 2020 that are not working today. Now, that said, it's created the major labor issue that is going on. And as it relates to supply chain, there's been 2 times where the United States has realized how important trucking is to the economy. One was during 2020, the virus, when everything was shut down.
Yep.
We weren't shut down. My mechanics, technicians out here in this shop weren't shut down. We were all coming to work to make sure that products got from A to B. And this is before, the mandate that is going on now, trying to make sure that you get the shot. And I'm not a pro shot, non-shot. It don't matter to me. I want freedom. And I want my people to make their decision on what they're going to do, not the government or an edict coming from an individual, President Biden, on that. So it is just continuing to cause the issue of employee issue. But how it relates to trucking is, we found out how important it was when the economy shut down. But we're also finding out today, when we go to the stores and there's nothing on our shelf, it's because the truckers are not out there to go.
Right.
So that said, as it relates to the port, don't let me get ahead of myself. As it relates to the port, so you have all these ships coming in, they can't unload them. So you ask, because here's an interesting stat, Perry. About 30% of the port gates are empty. I got a bunch of boats, I got a bunch of ships, a lot of containers, and there's about 30% of them that are not being used. And the reason for, again, it goes back to this employee problem, a worker problem. And the first line of defense, because it's not just drayage. What is a drayage? A drayage is a trucking company that picks it up at the port, picks the container up, takes it to a warehouse in Los Angeles. They then unload it and they put it on train or my trucks or somebody's trucks to go throughout the United States. So the first one is the drayage. The drayage has been under assault in the state of California for multiple years now, multiple years, in the name of environmental justice, or in the name of, we want a cleaner truck out there.
Right.
But the problem is that the pay that these drayage carriers get is very low. I mean, they'll sit there and haul a load that's paying them $80 or $100 per load.
What?
To go sit in traffic, as you know, in Los Angeles.
Oh, wow. Yeah, been there.
To go sit in traffic for 3 or 4 hours. And so what that's created is the only trucks, I don't do any of that. The only trucks that want to do that are the mom and pops that run a 15-year-old truck, that run a 10-year-old truck because they cannot afford a brand new truck because the wage is not high enough to support that truck. And so California, in the last few years, and in particular the last 2 to 3 years, clean air, you got to get rid of all your old trucks, but the pay has remained the same. But California has dictated a higher cost to those carriers. So what's happened? They've gone out of business. They've all shut their doors.
Wow.
There's not enough of them to pick up the containers in the port.
Wow.
So then they pick it up, the ones that are still in business, they pick it up. Hey, side note, California comes out and says in January of 2023, that's a year away, any truck that's going into the port has to have 0 emissions. 0 emissions. Impossible. They can't do it. But that's another problem.
Doesn't that mean that every trucker would have to buy a brand new truck of electric or something? So what does that do to a company with 2,500 trucks that works in that state?
Yeah.
Just hypothetically,
Right.
what does it do?
I mean, first of all, that example I just gave is that they're saying if you're going to come into the port on the most vulnerable segment, the drayage on the older trucks, they're saying we're going to stop this. If you come into the port, you're going to have zero emission in January 23. So it's impossible. It's impossible to do what they want to do.
David, that would basically mean if they stick with this, nothing will leave California. Nothing will leave the ports to go anywhere in the United States if they were to enforce that literally. Am I right or wrong?
Right. And if nothing, then what? 20%? I mean, there'll be a group, a segment that'll say,
small group.
Okay, we'll do this. And what California's banking on is that supply and demand eventually will say, we're going to do this. You all may go broke for 2 or 3 years, but eventually the rates will go up to be able to support this truck that we're mandating. But there will be all kinds of upheaval like we're going through now to get to that point. And so the ones that pick up, they go to the warehouse. They don't, including our warehouses that we run, we don't have enough help. There's not enough help. We don't have them unloading and loading. The containers are sitting on my yard and I can't load them and unload them because we don't have enough help to do it. And so supply chain, think about no toilet paper on the shelf, no food in the store, that's happening. Then what happens is that we normally run, to give you, and we're a good example because of our size, but we will normally run about 3% of our trucks will be open with no drivers. 3%, which is not a bad number, just because a lot of our drivers, we're asking them to stay out at 2 weeks at a time, 10 days at a time, because to run transcontinental like this, it takes a while to do that.
Right.
And so those drivers will say, well, I'm going to go do other things. And think about during this pandemic, what has exploded is me and you buying stuff delivered to our homes.
True.
That's exploded. Well, where did those drivers come from? They came from the OTR. We call them over the road drivers. Yeah. They said, hey, I can be home every night. So it's just put a domino effect on OTR that over the road drivers that are running out there.
Wow.
And so our open trucks have gone from 3% open to about 9 to 10% open, triple. Another thing that's happened, Perry, is that when I say us, the industry, is that what you're reading and hearing about chips, parts, and my trucks. Keep in mind, my average age of my truck is 22 months. We have a young fleet, and we keep a young fleet. But my in the shop has tripled. When I go into shop for repair, my downtime has tripled. And so my average days have gone from about 6 days per event when I go into shops for repairs to 15 days.
Wow.
So think about the trucks. I got more trucks open, no drivers in them. I got more trucks going to the shop that are taking 3 times the amount of time because they don't have the parts because of the supply chain.
Part shortage, yeah.
Part shortage. And so it is just causing this havoc that is causing the supply chain issue. And that's throughout the United States. It's not just Port of LA, Savannah, Charleston, New Jersey, Baltimore, Chesapeake, Virginia.
You don't hear about those.
No, it's because the large ones are here in LA and Long Beach, but the same issues are going on all over the United States.
So what happens now and with the age of truckers? You had mentioned that there's a lot of truckers that get to a certain age, or there are going to be a lot of retirements coming in all the industry, which opens up a situation where there's not enough people being trained to drive trucks now. They're just they're not being trained, and that creates another shortage, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely does. The average age right now is around 55 years old.
Oh, really?
Of drivers that are driving over the road out here, and they are. I mean, at 55, you can see what is happening. It was about 57, 58, but it's in the mid to high 50s. It's where it's at. But in the last couple of years, in particular, since the pandemic, think about the truck driving schools. They are the lifeblood.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Well, when COVID hit, they shut down.
Shut them down. Wow.
Now
Yeah.
they're back up to about 50% of being able to operate, about 50%, because they don't have the workers either.
To train.
And so to train my drivers that will eventually work for me.
Yep.
So the lifeblood of coming into our industry is not here, and that's causing another effect.
Okay. Here's another question on that.
Yep.
Fuel cost. Now, I know, if I remember correctly, about this time when President Trump was president, I was buying gas in Cleveland for about $1.80 a gallon. And it was like, I never thought I'd see it go under $2, to be quite honest with you. Right. But with the shutting down of pipelines, which I'm sorry, but I don't understand a pipeline that is just running a pipe, why you want to shut it down. I'm right. Beyond that, okay, just right. Comprehending it. But the prices of diesel, are most of your trucks diesel, is that correct?
Oh, yeah.
So diesel is always more. Now, how is that impacting on the cost level for your truck, for your company, as far as the cost of you taking those trucks out anywhere? Yeah,
I buy about 40 million gallons of fuel a year. 40 million gallons. And our fuel cost is just what the example you just gave. It's the same thing. We are up $1.50 a gallon on 40 million gallons.
Oh,
and
wow.
I mean, it's crazy numbers, and it's because of the stupidity of this government. We were, as we all know, a year and a half ago, we were a net exporter of crude.
True.
We, for the first time in mine and your life, we were energy independent because of one word, fracking.
Right.
What has the revolutionary of fracking that happened in the United States, and the government taking their big hands off the throats of the operators and allowed them to go and buy and get it. Because I'm going to tell you, even if you believe in the environmental junk, I'll shut up. But even if you believe in some of the issues, the environmental, why decrease the United States so that Saudi Arabia and Russia can increase?
Yeah, well, I mean, you got China, Russia, and Saudi all are producing oils and creating their own. We're shutting ours down, so where are we going to get ours from? Because this, and I think it's a fantasy. It would be great if we could all have different types of vehicles and all that. Yep. I understand that, but the point is, you don't do that overnight. It takes years to make any transition, and people are trying to say, okay, by 6 months we're going to do this, and in 2 years all the cars will be off the road. And I get tickled at these people that fly to they fly their private planes with their carbon footprint to do away with carbon.
Oh, I know.
They're at these conferences in their personal jets. And it's almost like, you do what I say, not what I'm going to do what I want to do. I'm an elitist. I have the money. I'll do this, but you poor folks down there, you just suffer. And this is almost, and I think this is why there's a frustration with the American people, is because a common person who is a common trucker, a common business person, a small business person, they know the basics of how an economy should work and how people should work, and work ethic and that type of thing. And it's just like being destroyed right directly in front of our eyes. Now, David, if prices, let's say, if prices of diesel continue to go up, and you have a retirement issue with truckers that are not being replaced, now we're not talking about just Covenant Transport, but let's talk about, I think USA has are they not a truck lines there in Chattanooga as well? Is it USA?
U.S. Express.
U.S. Express. All right, you're in Chattanooga, they're in the Chattanooga area. But let's take the extremely large and medium truck industries that have thousands of trucks on the road. What is going to happen if they don't get a grip on this crisis, if they don't stop some of the incredible regulation that's doing nothing but hindering the delivery process for the American people? What happens in the long run if we keep going down this road from the trucking industry?
Yeah, inflation continues to spiral out of control, because what is happening is that there's not enough trucks to haul the freight because we don't have enough drivers. And so it's causing rates to go up pricing is having to go up
Definitely.
because of parts and all of this kind of stuff, which eventually is the reason why you're seeing $3.50 a gallon for gasoline, and you're seeing bacon, and you're seeing eggs, and you're seeing milk, and you're seeing clothing, you're seeing all the explosion. It will not stop until we get labor corrected.
Okay.
It won't stop. It's going to keep going. Now, that said, I can tell you we could sit here. I do believe that the policies that this government has in, whether it's first quarter, second quarter, I hope I'm wrong. I think we'll be in a recession. I think that we'll be in a recession because 2 + 2 will equal 4, and you cannot make it equal 5. And and so we're going to go into a recession that then will break a lot of companies. I mean, it's just a tale that we're going to go through, but it's just going to be devastating to business over the next 2 to 3 years.
Do you believe, and of course, I have the opinion of this, that there's a proverb that Solomon wrote that said, a prudent man foresees the evil coming, and then he makes preparations. Do you feel like you hear a lot of people, especially on YouTube channels that are very knowledgeable people, telling the American people to store up what they believe they're going to need in the days ahead as much as possible? Do you feel like that's probably a wise, prudent thing? Now, I'm not talking about necessarily overly hoarding, but if you need something and you know your family needs it, to get it while you can get it, because there could be a possibility of a great delay for weeks or months with some things, or not just a delay, but actually an inability to get those things. Is that true?
Yeah. You know, that's something I'm struggling with personally. I'm sitting there saying, do I need to go do something?
Right.
May be wise, but I'm not there yet.
Right.
But I do think, okay, instead of buying 3 cans of pinto beans, maybe I need to buy 10. Instead,
right. Really, yeah.
I think it's got a shot of being, worse than it is. But then, Perry, the economy will start slowing down when we go into a recession.
Right.
And it's going to get worse during that time. But yeah, I mean, I think we should be using some wisdom.
Well, I want to say, and I could keep you on here forever because we got a lot we could talk about. But I want to thank you for taking the time to kind of explain the issue of the shortages and people not working, and the training schools being at 50%, and all these different things that begin to make sense to the viewers here of what we're dealing with and what we're going to deal with in the next couple of months. Now, in my own observation, I believe that probably the next year is going to be a tough year, and this is where, and I know that you're a great man of faith. You have Bible studies. You've always been a giver to the work of God, which I think is one of your little secrets there of how you've been blessed, and we appreciate that so much, of what you've done for the kingdom of God. But I do believe that people who are believers have to get their spiritual life in order first, their prayer life down, because this is where dependency and faith and individual faith and trust in some call the higher power, which is the Lord Himself. We are going to have to depend on Him, trusting Him. And I think the other thing is people need to find a good fellowship, a good church, a place where they can go and be ministered to and have a support base of people who care about people. And I also do believe that we're going to see out of this, anytime there's been a crisis in American history, and even outside the United States in nations that were based on Scripture like Britain or England, crisis always produces the old term that we use is revival, and that's what it is. It's a reviving of people's hearts and spirits to turn their heart back to God. So hopefully some of these situations that we're dealing with and we're about to see, that's going to be the end result, is people will restore their faith, turn to the Lord, deal with their issues. And I got my earpiece, just keeps coming out of this ear right here. But that's what I'm hoping will be kind of the end result from what we're going to see happen in the future. But I know I see your trucks on the road all the time. I see some with scriptures on the back, and I say, well, there's my friend's trucks right there, delivering and doing a great thing of helping the American people in this nation. So do you have any closing words you want to give on any thought that's maybe on your own heart?
I don't disagree with anything you just said there, and we got to use wisdom. And I'm always reminded that God shall supply all my needs.
Yes.
All my, it don't say how he's going to supply all my wants. If I'm not going to get a Cadillac if I can't afford the gas to go in it. So
Exactly.
here's what I
That's
do
right.
know: my needs will be met.
Right.
So there is, during this time of tribulation and trials that we're going through and going to continue to go through, and this upheaval that's happening, our needs are going to be met. And
Yes,
so,
I believe that.
and you're right. We got to run to him. We got to run. He who dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty.
Yeah. Now you're sounding like me.
Probably got it for you.
Well, I really appreciate your friendship over these years, and of course Rick, who's one of my closest friends in the world, Rick Tao, he's the husband of a great lady, Karen Wheaton, you know. But thank you for your time. I know you're a busy man. You've got a lot going on there at Covenant Transport, but I just felt like if I were to come on and share something, it comes a lot better from the man who's sitting behind the desk, who's running the company, who knows the inside firsthand. And so thank you for sharing that with us. I really do appreciate that.
Okay, Perry, you have a good day.
You too, and God bless you, David. Thank you. Well, that's been our special video with Dave Parker, the CEO of Covenant Transport, one of America's great trucking companies. I hope you enjoyed that. And if you learned some things, give it a thumbs up, okay? Give it a thumbs up, help it, because we want a lot of people to be able to hear what he said. And also remember that in the subscribe to our channel as well, and that way you will keep updated. We have a lot of good plans in the future, some things that we're going to share with you, but I'll promise you this: we will keep you informed with right now information, right now prophetic information, and teaching that we believe will be a help to you in the time ahead. Watch, of course, at the end. There's always something special that we share with you, but thank you for taking time with us today. God bless you. Greetings, everyone. This is Perry Stone, and I have a great announcement for you. I'm now making available to each of you the International Prophetic Summit, the greatest summit I was ever able to participate in. These are available on CD and DVD albums. There are 11 messages in all by myself, Bill Cloud, Mark Biltz, and also Joel Richardson. Let me just give you the titles you're going to hear. Is the Seven-Sealed Book Now Being Opened? The Parable of the Fig Tree and What It Means for America. What would Jesus do during this present civil war? A biblical response to aliens and UFOs. I preached a message called The Green New Deal and its economic impact on your family. Another great message that was preached. A word for America from the prophecy of Habakkuk. Another message is called What Time Is It? Bill Cloud stunned the audience with a message called Beware the Aviv Rav. I preached a message called Answering Tough Apocalyptic Questions That No One is Answering. Mark Biltz came back and preached a message called Jeremiah is a Prophet for Our Day. I closed the conference out with this message: Should you prepare for a Pele transition? Now I want to say something to you. It is a right now word. They are prophetic. They answer questions. And these are the unedited versions of the message. Now listen to me. On the Manifest telecast, you only get about 20 to 21 minutes of a message. I still have another 40 minutes to preach. Not only that, but we never show the speaker's messages, and sometimes some of the information they share is for certain at-home ears only. It really would be rejected if it was put on social media. So I'm going to tell you how to get this series. If you want to get the CD album, the number is 21PS CD, and it's for $65 or more donation. If you would like to get the DVDs, and can I suggest to you to get the DVDs, because especially with Mark Biltz, they have PowerPoint pictures. I show you pictures in my messages, and people really seem to enjoy that. But the DVDs are offer number 21PS DVD for $95. Now here's how you order. You can call toll-free 1-888-21-BREAD, order that way, or you can contact perrystone.org on the internet, log on and order online, or just send us a check to Perry Stone, P.O. Box 3595, Cleveland, Tennessee 37320. Now remember this, that those checks and those orders go 100% to the Voice of Evangelism Ministry to help keep the Manifest program on the air. Now we're living in the greatest prophetic times that there's ever been. There is a clash between two kingdoms taking place. You are only arming yourself properly if you are armed with revelation knowledge and the truth of God's Word. May I encourage you, call, go online, or write me right now. God bless you.